She used to walk into a room and feel the air shift, like everyone knew she was the smartest one there. Back then, Samantha Carter had 2 engineering degrees, and recruiters fighting over her like she was the last glass of water in the desert. People called her a prodigy. Professors bragged about her and her mother. Oh, her mother couldn't stop smiling every time her name was mentioned. But genius has a cruel way of being tested. And when it was her turn, she fell harder than anyone imagined. Samantha's secret passion wasn't engines or code, it was design. While everyone else thought she was calculating voltage drops, she was sketching dresses in the margins of her textbooks. She wanted to merge both worlds' clothes that were alive, responsive, almost magical. That's when Marcus Rivera walked into her life. Smooth words, a perfect smile, the kind of man who made you believe in every impossible thing he said. He told her she wasn't crazy, that the world was waiting for exactly what she dreamed of. "We'll start a company together," he said, "and they'll write about us in magazines." And she believed him. Together, they built sparkwear jackets that warmed you when the air dropped, dresses that shifted with your mood. Investors loved it. The media adored it. Overnight, Samantha was the face of futuristic fashion. But success hides its cracks well. Missed meetings, vague excuses, bank accounts that never added up. She brushed it off because Marcus always had a smile and a promise. Until one morning she walked into their office and it was empty. His desk gone, their accounts drained, warehouses cleared, and her name erased from ownership 2 weeks before the collapse. Betrayal so clean it looked rehearsed. She went from headlines to whispers overnight, the girl who got played the genius who wasn't so smart after all. Her life unraveled, apartment gone, car gone, reputation shredded. People who once begged for her ideas wouldn't even answer her emails. The lowest moment wasn't the night she curled up in a bus station restroom. It was the day she put on a janitor's uniform at Orion Technologies, a company she once dreamed of leading. When the hiring manager saw her resume, he almost laughed. "You sure about this?" And she said quietly, "No, but it's what I need." That was 2 years ago. By day, Samantha disappeared into the crowd. By night, she pushed her mop down the glossy halls of Orion's skyscraper. Her home was a corner of the parking garage, 2 cardboard walls, a mattress someone had thrown out, and a backpack with her whole life in it. Sometimes she cried at night, but more often she just stared at her hands, remembering what they used to build. In secret, she filled a notebook with sketches, circuits, inventions. Once she even corrected a boiler schematic with a quick drawing left behind, and weeks later she saw the company had installed her fix. Nobody knew it was her, but she smiled anyway. It was proof she hadn't lost it. Proof her mind still worked. Then came the night that changed everything. It was almost midnight and she was cleaning the executive floor. The floor that always felt untouchable, as if the air itself belonged to people who owned the future. Normally, those glass-walled boardrooms were dark, but that night, one room was still glowing. She paused, leaned closer. Inside, a man paced in front of a wall-sized screen, filled with equations and flashing error messages. Broad shoulders, sleeves rolled up, tie hanging loose. She froze. Everyone knew that face. Daniel Holt, Billionaire, CEO of Orion, the man who built an empire on renewable energy patents. On TV, he always looked untouchable. But right then, he looked desperate. Samantha couldn't help herself. Her eyes followed the formulas. She saw it instantly. The loop was inverted. That's why his prototype kept failing. Her heart raced. She told herself to walk away, but the words slipped out before she could stop them. "I can correct it." Her own voice startled her. Daniel spun around, eyes sharp, confused. "What did you just say?" She swallowed, stepped forward, her mop still in one hand. Your polarity loop. It's reversed. That's why the current keeps crashing." He looked at her like she was insane. A janitor talking circuits. But she didn't flinch. She set the mop aside, picked up the marker with trembling fingers, and fixed the formula. 2 strokes, 1 adjustment, and the board turned green. Problem solved. Silence filled the room. Daniel stared, then whispered, "How did you... Who are you?" She stood there, uniform, hanging loose on her shoulders, eyes down. "My name is Samantha Carter. I used to be an engineer, before everything fell apart." For a long moment he said nothing. Then instead of dismissing her, he leaned in. "Show me what you did." She explained clear sharp, like she was breathing in her own language again. His team had struggled for 6 months. She solved it in 5 minutes. He shook his head slowly. "Why now? Why speak up tonight?" And she answered honestly, "Because watching you struggle, I knew I could help, and I couldn't walk away again." That was the beginning. The next night he asked her back, not to clean, but to think. She brought her old notebook full of sketches she'd hidden for years. He listened, challenged her, treated her like an equal. Slowly, the infinity room, the boardroom she once polished in silence, became her lab. Night after night, she and Daniel worked side by side, building something his own team had failed to achieve. She cut energy loss by 17%, designed adaptive sensors his engineers never conceived, and for the first time in years, she felt alive. He stopped seeing a janitor. He started seeing a partner, but the whispers came. Other janitors noticed, why was she walking with the CEO carrying blueprints instead of mops? She ignored them. Daniel told her the world wasn't ready yet to know who she was. "They'll call you a charity case, a fluke. We keep this quiet until it's undeniable." And she agreed, because she'd rather be invisible than mocked again. They worked in secret until the engine was perfect. When it was finally unveiled, Daniel called a private board meeting. Samantha walked in not in a uniform, but in a crisp white blouse and trousers she bought with her first paycheck from him. The directors looked at her puzzled. She stood steady and said, "My name is Samantha Carter. I co-developed the Orion microinverter system. Some of you may know me as the woman who lost everything, but tonight I want you to know me as the engineer who built this." Silence hung heavy. Then one director cleared his throat, leaned back, and nodded slowly. By the end of the week, her name was on the company roster not as maintenance staff, but as lead innovator. And just when she thought the past was buried, it clawed back. A message from a law firm Marcus Rivera had been found. Living in Spain under a false name, running scams with her stolen designs. The fire in her chest wasn't revenge. It was restoration. Daniel asked her simply, "Do you want to press charges?" She nodded once. "Then let's do it." Interpol got involved. Marcus was dragged off his yacht in handcuffs. The judge ruled the company had always been hers. Assets recovered. Reputation cleared. The girl who was once mocked online as the fool who got played became the woman who rewired her fate. With her name restored, Samantha could have stayed at Orion forever. But she wanted something that was hers again. She launched her own brand, Phoenix Labs. Not just fashion, not just engineering, but a rebirth of both. She didn't hire Ivy League resumes. She recruited the overlooked kids from community colleges, immigrants without papers, women who had been told no too many times. They built jackets that stored energy from motion scarves, that silenced noise backpacks with biometric locks. Every piece stamped with a small rising phoenix, the symbol of beginning again. Her products sold out in minutes. The press called her a visionary reborn. Students lined up to hear her speak. When asked about Daniel, she always said the same thing. He didn't save me. He saw me. And that's even more powerful. They remained close, not lovers, but something deeper. Two people who understood what it meant to fall and rise again. Years later, Samantha stood on the rooftop of her own tower, looking out over the city skyline. She whispered to herself, "I didn't need luck. I just needed a moment." That moment had come the night she dared to speak 5 quiet words, "I can correct it." And maybe that's the question for all of us. How many brilliant minds have we ignored because of the clothes they wore, the job they held, or the place they slept? How many Samanthas are out there just waiting for a single moment to be seen? What do you think? Was it fate that Daniel listened, or just chance? And have you ever judged someone only to find out later they were so much more than they seemed? Share your thoughts below, because stories like this aren't just about her. They're about all of us.